PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, Golden Knights fans, and welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli, and what a fantastic show we have planned for you tonight as we are going to be going over the Vegas Golden Knights, the lines that they have currently right now, and kind of giving you a breakdown on what is going on with certain players here on the Vegas Golden Knights, here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. Now, if you want to go to PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, check out all the content we have on there. We upload a dozen shows to PRConnectionsRadio.com, including Vegas Hockey Hub. If you want to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to PR Connections Radio, once again, we upload a dozen shows. We upload every single day to PR Connections Radio on the YouTube channel, and that, of course, includes Vegas Hockey Hub. We also upload to our own YouTube channel as well, Vegas Hockey Hub, where we post content daily. We've been doing that for about a year now on Vegas Hockey Hub. So we have shorts, we have playlists, we have videos we're doing right now. Vegas Hockey Hub recap we did a while ago. So if you want to go to the PR Connections YouTube channel and subscribe, or if you want to go to the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel and like and share, it would be much appreciated. We are also on all major social media platforms, as we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We are everywhere at Vegas Hockey Hub. We also do our live tweets throughout every single Vegas Golden Knights game. So if you go to at Vegas Hockey Hub, we are live doing updates as the game is going on. And if you want to follow your host, I am here at Ian Rickelli 18 right down below. So as we are getting into the Vegas Golden Knights and breaking down the lines right here, right now on Vegas Hockey Hub, is a good time to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights. So the first line for Vegas, you have Ivan Barbashev at the left wing. At center, you have Jack Eichel. And at the right wing, you have Jonathan Marchessault. So let's start with the center position. Let's start with Jack Eichel, because when it comes to Jack Eichel, he has been one of the most impact players the Vegas Golden Knights have had. Since they acquired him from Buffalo, he has been a key asset to the Vegas Golden Knights. He has been a good player for Vegas. But how has Jack Eichel performed in Vegas to begin the year? How has he done as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights? So we're not going to go all the way back, but we're going to go up until November 2nd to now. Because Jack Eichel in the month of November had 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points in the first half of November. He had a 3-point night against Montreal when they won 6-5. In fact, was the player of the game, the impact player for Vegas on that night. I will also say he played the most time on ice almost so far in this season, as he played over 25 minutes of ice time for Vegas against Montreal. He also had a point as an assist against San Jose. He had a goal and an assist in Anaheim when they went there in early November. And then they had a 2-goal night against Colorado when they shut out the Avalanche at T-Mobile Arena to begin November. So for Jack Eichel to have 4 goals and 8 points in the first half of November is pretty good for a guy like Jack Eichel. And then don't forget that in November, he had 3 goals and 10 points in 10 games. So for anybody who wants to do simple mathematics, it means that Jack Eichel averaged a point per game in October. So for Jack Eichel, the guy that he is, he averaged a point per game in the entire month of November. He had an assist when they took on Montreal. They had an assist against Chicago. He had a 2-assist night when Philadelphia came into town and took on the Golden Knights. He also had an assist on back-to-back games against Chicago. He had a goal against Winnipeg when they went down there and faced off in Winnipeg. He had a 2-point performance against Anaheim, including a sick goal to end the first period. And he had his first goal of the season on opening night against the Seattle Kraken. So for Jack Eichel to have 10 points in the first 10 games of the season was great. For him to have 8 points in the first 7 games of November, that tells me that Jack Eichel has been consistent as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. In fact, Jack Eichel has been so consistent as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights that he has scored points in 12 of the first 17 games of the year. So his stats overall are 7 goals, 11 assists for 18 points as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I do want to quickly mention with Jack Eichel that since he has 18 points on the year, that puts him 25th in all of NHL in points. So for a guy like Jack Eichel, who's a top 20 player in the NHL, to be top 25 in points, it just backs up that argument that he is the face of the franchise. He is the impact player that Vegas needed at center. And then at left wing, we have Ivan Barbashev. And look, Ivan Barbashev is an interesting tale. He is an interesting story for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I will give credit to Vegas Hockey Now. He was the first one to bring this up. I am not going to take any credit for it at all. But Ivan Barbashev, to begin the year, and this was actually a really interesting point, Ivan Barbashev had only 2 points in the first 10 games. Now, consider that his line mate was Jack Eichel, who was averaging a point per game in October. And Ivan Barbashev had only 2 points in 10 games. He had a goal in the first game of the season on opening night against Seattle. And then he had a goal against Philadelphia in the middle of October. So for Ivan Barbashev, it seemed like he was struggling a bit, that he was not at the same level as the rest of his line mates were. And we'll get to Jonathan Marchessault in a second. So the first 10 games of the year, Ivan Barbashev seemed like he was just kind of stuck in his situation. Now, the one positive we did have about Ivan Barbashev was his 10 penalty minutes that he had in the first 10 games. So if you wanted to give any accolade, any credit to Ivan Barbashev, he was averaging a penalty minute per game in Vegas. So after having a sluggish start to the year, how did Ivan Barbashev respond in November? How did he respond in the first 8 games of November? Well, Ivan Barbashev would have a goal and an assist when Winnipeg came into town for the first game in November. There's also the same Ivan Barbashev who a few games later would score a goal in Anaheim. So for Ivan Barbashev, he got a little bit better to where it is 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points on the year. And I will say that when it comes to Ivan Barbashev, 17 games into the year, he has 4 goals, only 2 assists for 6 points. For a guy who's a first-line winger, 6 points is not great. 6 points for Ivan Barbashev. Look, it's not terrible. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my gosh, he's among the worst. But what I'm going to say is that when it comes to Vegas Hockey Now, he had an excellent point. That Ivan Barbashev is the weak link. In fact, Jack Eichel and everything that's going on there, I will say for Ivan Barbashev, he is being negatively affected on the first line. Where Jack Eichel is putting up numbers. Like I said, he's averaging over a point per game for the Vegas Golden Knights. He's doing relatively well. Ivan Barbashev, not the same. So for our sake and for the Vegas Golden Knights fans' sake, Ivan Barbashev can turn it around and overcome his early struggles in Vegas. But yeah, 6 points in 17 games, 4 of them being goals so far for Ivan Barbashev. And then at right wing, you have the face of the Vegas Golden Knights, the guy who everyone loves here in Vegas. And of course, that is Jonathan Marchessault. And Jonathan Marchessault, this is actually a very good situation for him, as he was averaging a half a point per game in the month of October. He scored a goal on opening night against Seattle. A few games later in Winnipeg, he scored his second goal of the season. And then the next game later in Chicago at the United Center, got his third goal of the season. And then if you want to tally up 2 assists that he had against LA and against Philly, he ended the month of October with 3 goals, 2 assists on the month of October. So not a bad start for Jonathan Marchessault. And then he lit up the lamp when Winnipeg came to Vegas. When Winnipeg went to T-Mobile, Jonathan Marchessault had his first hat trick of the season, made it 6 goals on the year for Jonathan Marchessault. And then he had an assist in that shutout that they had with Colorado, and then backed it up while in his home of Quebec as he scored a goal against Montreal. So far in the month of November, Jonathan Marchessault has had 4 goals in 7 games in November. So Jonathan Marchessault has 7 goals and 10 points on the year for the Vegas Golden Knights. So for line 1, Jonathan Marchessault, 10 points, 7 of them being goals. Jack Eichel, 18 points, doing relatively well, one of the best players on the roster. Ivan Barbashev, struggling a little bit, 4 goals for 6 points on the first line. So my main takeaway from the first line is that Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault are carrying their weight. Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel are doing exactly what they need to do here in Vegas. The problem is Ivan Barbashev will need to carry and step up here in Vegas, because Ivan Barbashev is not doing it at the present moment. And then let's get to line 2, because for the Vegas Golden Knights, this has been a relatively different line 2. Now, we know that Chandler Stevenson is out. We understand that he is not playing on line 2. We'll mention him later in the show. So for the Vegas Golden Knights on line 2, here is some good back and forth here. Because with Chandler Stevenson being out for line 2, they have had Brett Howden there. They've had Michael Amadio. They've had Paul Cotter. They even had William Carrier on line 2 for a couple of games. But I'm just going to stick to the basic level of line 2. And when you get to line 2, we have to start with Brett Howden, because there's a lot to discuss with Brett Howden. So for Brett Howden, who is a second-line winger for the Vegas Golden Knights, he's a middle 6 forward out there in Vegas. Brett Howden, he played in the opening night against Seattle and has had a major penalty and got a game misconduct for hitting Brandon Tanev in the head. And because Brett Howden suffered a game match penalty, he would get suspended for the next 2 games. So not only did Brett Howden get suspended, but he also would have to miss some time with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, what I will say about Brett Howden is that once he came back, he had an assist against Dallas. He had a goal against Winnipeg. He had 1 goal and 2 assists in the first 5 games. The problem is that for the rest of October, he had 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points in Vegas. In fact, the only tally he had in the remaining 5 games of October was 2 penalty minutes. So for Brett Howden in October, he had a good start to the season, having 3 assists in the first 5 games. But it wasn't for that game match penalty, and if it wasn't for a 5-game streak of no points at all, it made Brett Howden look a bit suspect. So Brett Howden would again go to the third line for Vegas. And after having 4 games in a row where Brett Howden would fail to register a point, he would even be demoted to the 4th line to replace Nick Waugh as their center. And I will acknowledge that once the Nick Wass situation happened and they put him on line 4 alongside William Carrier and King Kolizar, they even did a situation where it was Pavel Dorofeev and King Kolizar. You also had a situation where Giannis Raumbier was on line 4 with King Kolizar and Brett Howden. There's been a lot of shuffling on the lines here in Vegas. Once he was transferred from being a second line, third line winger back to being a fourth line center, we saw a bit of a difference with Brett Howden. As Brett Howden would break a 9-game point streak, a 9-game point drought for the Vegas Golden Knights, as Brett Howden would score his second goal of the season against San Jose. That would be a good night for him. Of course, they would shut out San Jose 5-0, but it was just a good moment for Brett Howden to kind of break that 9-game pointless drought that he was having. And then 2 games later in Montreal, back as a winger, he would get his third goal of the season for Brett Howden. So it's really tough to really grade Brett Howden because he had that suspension after game 1. It was a careless penalty. It shouldn't have happened. He got suspended for it. Then he had the 9-game drought where he failed to register a point in 9 straight games. However, he did recover recently and have 2 goals in the last 3 games. So for a guy like Brett Howden, it seems like he kind of goes like a roller coaster. It's up and down for a guy like Brett Howden. So I will say for him, 3 goals, 5 points on the year. But for somebody who's playing here in Vegas, it just doesn't seem right. It kind of just feels weird that a guy like Brett Howden, who we've done a player profile on here on Vegas Hockey Hub, to kind of be struggling the way he is. Very unfortunate. Then on the second line, of course, Chandler Stevenson, who has been out for 4 games on the year. But when Chandler Stevenson was on the ice, he was an impactful player. I said we were going to talk about him later in the show. We're talking about him right now. So Chandler Stevenson had a 2-point night on opening night against Seattle. A few games later, a 3-point night when Anaheim came to T-Mobile. And then he had back-to-back games with an assist with Chicago and Winnipeg. And then when Montreal came to Vegas at the end of October, he had an assist in that game. So for Chandler Stevenson in October, he had 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points in the month of October. So not bad for Chandler Stevenson to have 8 points in the first 10 games. And then in the 7-0 shutout against Colorado, he had a 2-point night, which bumped him up to 12 points on the year when it came to the Vegas Golden Knights. So you had 2 goals and 8 assists for Chandler Stevenson at that point. And then they had the injury with Chandler Stevenson at Anaheim. He missed a game against Montreal, missed a game against Washington, and of course he missed the recent game as well against San Jose. So for Chandler Stevenson, he has done relatively well. We know that he will be coming back at some point for the Vegas Golden Knights, but relatively speaking, Chandler Stevenson, 10 points in 13 games, not bad for a second-line center. And then at right wing, you have the captain. You have a guy who has been, offensively speaking, the best player on the team, and that is Mark Stone, the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights. So for Mark Stone, he has had an impactful season for the Vegas Golden Knights. This is a Mark Stone who had a 2-goal performance against Colorado. He had 4-point night against Colorado. He also had a bit of a streak going where he had 2 assists against Seattle. He would have an assist against Dallas. Then have a 2-assist night against Winnipeg. He would score the occasional goal against Chicago and LA, for example. But for Mark Stone, he ended up having 2 goals and 6 points in the first 11 games of the season. There's also the same Mark Stone who, after Game 12 against Colorado, he ended up having 4 goals and ended up having 8 assists at that point, almost averaging a point per game here in Vegas. So how did he capitalize on that momentum, you might ask? He had an assist against LA, an assist against San Jose, and then a goal and 2 assists against Montreal. So for the captain, Mark Stone, he has been efficient. He has been productive. And he has 5 goals and 17 points on the year for the Vegas Golden Knights. Mark Stone, by the way, that puts him at 28th in terms of points in the entire NHL. Jack Eichel is 25th. Mark Stone, 28th. Now, if you're an assist guy, you're definitely going to go with Mark Stone. If you're a goal guy and you're someone who thinks that goals are the only thing that matters, you're going to go with Jack Eichel. So, for Mark Stone, the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, doing what he is doing. So, to recap the second line, Brett Howden, 5 points in 15 games. Chandler Stevenson, 10 points in 13 games. And then Jack Eichel, who is on the first line with 18 points. Mark Stone, averaging a point per game with 17 points in 17 games. And now the bottom 6 is going to kind of be a little bit of a simple breakdown, but we're going to have to do it here on Vegas Hockey Hub. On the third line winger, you have Paul Cotter. Now, Paul Cotter, 3 goals and 6 points in 17 games for Paul Cotter. This guy also has 25 penalty minutes. He leads the entire Vegas Golden Knights roster with penalty minutes at this point here in Vegas. A lot of that has to do with a whopping 17 penalty minutes he got in one game against Washington. He also got kicked out of said game against Washington. Now, for Paul Cotter, I will say that he has had 0 points in the first 7 games of November. Paul Cotter has not registered a point since the last game of October, and that was when Montreal came to Vegas. So that's a bit questionable. That's definitely a question mark for Paul Cotter to have not scored a point and be on a 7-game point streak, on a 7-game pointless streak for Paul Cotter. And then at center for the Vegas Golden Knights, you have William Karlsson. And I will say for William Karlsson, he is back as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. 8 goals, 19 points in 17 games to begin the year. And for William Karlsson, he has definitely outperformed what he did the last couple of years. And he has been one of the most impactful players here in Vegas. Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, and William Karlsson have been the most impactful players on offense for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then at right wing, the guy they have on their same line is Michael Amadio. And for Michael Amadio, 2 goals and 9 points. He has played all 17 games already for the Vegas Golden Knights. And for Michael Amadio, he doesn't really score that much. In fact, his last goal was in LA at the end of October. But that's not really what he's there for. He registers a good amount of assists here in Vegas. And then the fourth and final line, which is definitely something we have to talk about. William Carrier, who missed time, has 3 goals and 4 points in 14 games on line 4. Nick Waugh, 3 goals and 4 points in 8 games. He has been out for a good amount of time for the Vegas Golden Knights. So for a guy like Nick Waugh, averaging half a point per game on the fourth line, not bad for somebody like Nick Waugh. And then Keegan Kolesar, the guy who would be leading in penalty minutes if it wasn't for Paul Cotter, only 2 points in 17 games. But you have to remember, Keegan Kolesar is not here to put points up on the board. He is here for his physicality. He is here to put people on their butt. He is there to shove people around. It is what Keegan Kolesar is good at. He is very good at getting into people's heads. That is what he does. Now, the 2 players that I have to mention, because they're not on the starting lines right now, but they have been impactful. Pavel Dorofeev, 1 goal and 5 points in 12 games this year. And Jonas Raunbjerg, 1 goal and 3 points in 6 games. He's averaging half a point pace in Vegas. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, it has definitely been a good back and forth here. And since we have about 5 minutes left, let's talk about the defensemen for just a minute, because Shea Theodore and Brayden McNabb have been the most efficient line for the Vegas Golden Knights. Not only because Shea Theodore has 4 goals and 16 points in 17 games, not only because Brayden McNabb has his first goal and 8 points on the year in 17 games, but Brayden McNabb has a plus 13 on the season. Brayden McNabb has the best plus minus here in Vegas. So for a guy like Paul Cotter and for a guy like Brayden McNabb, they're on polar opposites. Paul Cotter has a lot of penalty minutes, but his plus minus isn't that great. Brayden McNabb, he can register some penalty minutes, but he is mostly effective as a plus minus guy, as being in the defense, blocking shots. That's what Brayden McNabb does. I give a lot of credit to him. You also have a situation where Alex Pietrangelo and Alec Martinez are being impactful for different reasons. Alex Pietrangelo, only 1 goal on the year, but 8 assists in 12 games. Alex Pietrangelo doesn't put the puck in the back of the net as much, but he gets a lot of assists. Alec Martinez, on the opposite hand, 3 goals, only 1 assist in 12 games. So for Alec Martinez, he's putting the puck in the back of the net. Alex Pietrangelo is the one handing the assist and getting that puck into the back of the net. And then the third and final defense, you have Zach Whitecloud and Nick Hague. Now, Nick Hague has been out. Zach Whitecloud has been out. So who has taken their place? Well, Caden Korczak and Ben Hutton have been 2 impactful guys on that bottom pairing. Caden Korczak had 1 goal and 4 points in only 7 games for Vegas, whereas Ben Hutton, the veteran that he is, has 2 assists in 12 games. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, they have a good momentum booster when it comes to defense. Because right now, here in Vegas, they have used not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, but 9 defensemen. The Vegas Golden Knights have used 9 defensemen on the year, and we're not even 20 games into the year. Now, for most teams, they would be panicking. They'd be shaking in their boots, having to use 9 defensemen. But here in Vegas, it's just another Tuesday. And considering who they have as their top prospect in defenseman Lucas Cormier out there in Henderson, there's no doubt in my mind that if they had to, they could use 10 defensemen on the year if need be. So for Vegas and for the Vegas Golden Knights, it has been a good first month and a half here in Vegas. And I just wanted to hop on this show and break down the first month and a half here in Vegas. So until next time, we are going to be doing our Vegas Hockey Hub recap show on Saturday before the Formula One Grand Prix. As a matter of fact, we are going to be doing that show at 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. So for everybody watching all around the world, I want to let everybody know on Saturday, when the Philadelphia Flyers and Vegas Golden Knights take on each other at the Wells Fargo Arena in Philadelphia, that the Vegas Golden Knights and Philadelphia Flyers game at 10 a.m., we're going to do the recap show that same day at 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, here on Vegas Hockey Hub. So, until next time, this is PR Connections Radio, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli, and continue watching hockey. Go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go!